So we are starting databases. First of all, we need to understand what databases are, why they are used, and they are used as a replacement of what? So databases are actually collections of data, which we also see that there are different methods of collecting data. Like if you remember, we also did file handling in our we also discussed file handling in our A1, and you remember that in file handling, when we were entering data, one issue, serial file handling especially, or a text file handling, if you remember that, in text files, there were some issues which we actually did not discuss as issues. We just worked on file handling in our A1 paper 2, and while coding, you remember that we were opening the file in one of these modes, either input, output, and Isa Konsata, who's going to tell me?
Append.
Append mode. Now, once a file is in input mode, we cannot fetch data out of it. We cannot insert data into it. If the file is in output mode, we cannot take data out of it. And if we have, let me tell it again. If we have opened the file in input mode, it means we cannot insert data into the file. If we have opened the file in output mode, we cannot uh, read the data from it. And in the case of append, the same is as output. Now, you remember that input mode, actually I've written these terms as per VB. Input is a read mode, output is write mode, writing on a file, and append is same as append, means insertion at the end of a record. So when we use databases, we can do this, that we can restrict data only either read or write access to be said. But by default, when we open a file in databases, we have both options. We can read the data, and we can also write data from these files. We can read data from these files, and we can also write data into these files, and we can append. Then you also we looked in text files, file handling. We also looked into that when we open one file, when we open a file, that file is not able to get linked with other. Cannot be linked with other file. And the file, because we are storing data in one file. So because of that, there is a chance, and very commonly it happens that redundancy occurs, means data gets duplicated. So when we study databases, we actually see file handling limitations as the uh, as errors, as problems, as drawbacks of file handling, flat file handling in programming. But when we use databases, these all issues uh, can be overcome by using databases. And there are also uh, compatibility and data integrity issues. In file handling. Now, by using databases, we can come over it and we can set some data rules which will help us in uh, integrity of data. Now, what does this mean? For example, we have one file over here and the other file over here, and in both files, a student's name, for example, Asim Mehboob is written, for example, and in this file also the same name was written. स्क्रीन पे लिखना थोड़ा मुश्किल होता है. Okay, now because there was a mistake in spelling, now actually I write my name with cap A, M-A-H. So if I correct this in this file and I make this A as E, this is not automatically getting updated. So this is an integrity issue, correctness of the data. I have to update at both places. So because of databases updation, automatic updation feature, this issue is resolved. So ये हमें वहाँ पर databases में problem नहीं होगी. And there was also a chance of unwanted and accidental deletion chances in file handling. Now, in databases, this doesn't happen. When you delete a data, for example, if I'm deleting this record, actually this record will not get deleted. Instead, it will be flagged. It will be flagged. So there is a chance of recovering the data even after deletion. So once we delete a data, it only gets flagged by making marking as its flag. It gets hidden, and the users of the database are not able to view it. But actually, it exists somewhere in the database, and the database administrator has this feature to unflag it and get the data back. So this is not possible in file-based systems. And there is a problem. Another issue in databases is that the programs that we are writing are um, are um, are actually data dependent. You may say our structure structure dependent. Okay. So,
सर
yes.
सर अब आप हमें थ्योरी बताएंगे ना, तो वो हमारा जो पेपर था फाइनल एग्जाम.
So, another issue with file handling systems is data dependency, structure dependency. Programs are data dependent. Means what? Because you have, the programmer would have designed the file structure. For example, there's a contact list in which data has to be stored and retrieved and deleted, whatever the scenario is. So some kind of a data structure would have been made to store data. For example, पहले कोई नाम होगा, फिर में भी एक स्पेशल कैरेक्टर होगा जो कुछ अदर पीस ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन को, फॉर एग्जांपल जो है वो सेपरेट कर रहा है. लेट्स सपोज मैं यहाँ स्लैश लगा रहा हूँ, या स्लैश की जगह में आई थिंक बेटर, क्योंकि मैं यहाँ पे आगे डेट ऑफ एडमिशन भी इंक्लूड कर रहा हूँ, तो मैं यहाँ स्टेरिक ले लेता हूँ. और फिर उसके बाद डेट ऑफ एडमिशन फॉर एग्जांपल 12/6/2019 आईना की लिख लेते हैं. ऐसी मैंने ऐसी कोई एग्जांपल ही लिख ली है. देन आयशा in 13/7/2019. So, so likewise, the data is being stored. Now, if we want to add some more information to the file, for example, so it is not possible. Why? Because the code would have been the program code जो फाइल ओपन और फिर रीड की जितनी भी इंस्ट्रक्शंस आ रही होंगी are dependent on this program, this structure. So if I change the structure of the data, I have to modify the program also. Or if I add some more information at the end of these records, so then I have to modify the program also. So program is dependent on the structure of the data. So if we modify the structure of the data, we also need to modify, edit the program source and recompile our code so that it gets executed. Whereas this is not the case in databases. In a database, the files are and the programs that that will be manipulating data are not dependent on the structure. So if we make a change in the structure of the database, the earlier written programs will not get affected. Or even if we want to modify the previous programs, we can easily modify those previous programs. And if the structure hasn't been changed, so the structure will not get affected. So both are those scenarios are available. In databases, we can change the program and we need not to affect the data structure. And if we are changing the structure, we need not to modify the program. We need not to add it and recompile the data structure. So what I'm discussing here is actually issues of file handling and how these could be overcome with the help of databases. And in databases, या हम फाइल हैंडलिंग की बात करेंगे. In files, queries that we want to create or some kind of data extraction programs that we want to write on, बल्कि मैं queries की जगह word यहाँ पर data structure, data extraction programs लिख देता हूँ. data extraction programs are difficult to be written and edited. So in databases, instead of these self-coded programs, वहाँ पे भी code करना पड़ेगा, but there is a tool known as query. So with the help of query, we can create, with a query tool, we can create complex queries, and we have always this option to modify these queries. So the option of the creation of complex queries and editing of the previous programs and the recompiling now has overcome because of this query tool, which is a very good tool as it makes the databases a lot flexible. And there is also an option in databases that is known as QBE, and this means query by example. In earlier days, we were only able to write structured query language. In earlier days, we were only able to write structured query language to make these queries and extract data. But in recent developments and for a long time, there is an option of query by example, that an interface is given. You just click, and you create query. You need not to actually write the code. So this is also a very good feature in databases, which make the databases a lot flexible and very interesting to use. Somehow you can say it is easy to use, but obviously databases and its features and its extraction tools are quite complicated also. So we have to practice a lot and understand a lot. And this is one of the highly paid jobs that you get once you become a database administrator. So because the data is very important to all organizations, and they want it to be a very well organized database system. So isliye this is very important that when we study databases, we study very carefully. And और क्या हो सकता है file based systems के? There is a lot of need of maintenance in file based systems. Now the DBS database systems has overcome this unproductive maintenance, and it has been eliminated now because when you make change in one place, change in one place, other places automatically get updated. Automatically, updated. So this is another flaw that will be overcome once we use a database system instead of file-based systems. ये बात मैं पहले भी लिख चुका हूँ, बता चुका हूँ, that we can modify the structure of the database. Yeah, we can add fields to our database without without affecting existing programs. प्रोग्राम डिपेंडेंसी में ये बात मैं पहले बोल दी है. स्क्रीन पे लिखना इज वेरी डिफिकल्ट.
सर मान कह रही है कि इसका बार बार डिस्कनेक्ट हो रहा है, तो जब वो कनेक्ट होगा तो फिर वो आ जाएगी मीटिंग में.
जी ठीक है. Okay, जी. What else? Now structural changes में adding new fields भी आ जाएगा, deletion of another field भी आ जाएगा, और कोई editing of the fields भी आ सकता है. So we can add, delete, and and edit a field without affecting our programs. And there was no security provided. No security was provided, unless we code a little bit. So वो हमें फिर भी फाइल जो है, क्योंकि जो फाइल itself है वो या हमने txt फॉर्मेट में रखी हुई है. It means the data is in ASCII form. ये जो चीजें मैं बता रहा हूँ ये एग्जाम में एज ए पॉइंट लिखना होता है आपने. ये ऐसे नहीं है कि आप बस लिख दें नो सिक्योरिटी. नहीं, आपने बताना है देयर इज नो सिक्योरिटी इन फाइल हैंडलिंग, आगे रीजन देनी है. आप लिखेंगे नो सिक्योरिटी इन फाइल हैंडलिंग एज द फाइल इज अ text file and the data stored is in ASCII. So if anybody gets access to the file, the person can read the data or convert. Even if it is somehow encrypted, it will be it will be encoded and can be read. But once the data has been stored in a database, so the database provide different types of security. The database one has things like passwords. It also provides us access level, that the users of the database are only able to have some options, or one may have more option, all options. Like one can only view, the other can only insert, and they can only see only partial view, and one may have complete access. So some may have access to only one part of the database. ये partial view में ये बात भी आ जाएगी. So and then we can also have a feature of backups. So if there is an excuse me, if there is an accidental loss of data, we can recover that also. And और कोई बात अगर मैं मिस कर रहा हूँ. there is another. जी जी.
सर अगर टेक्स्ट फाइल में आपने बोला एन्क्रिप्टेड हो तो फिर भी रीड हो सकती है?
हम कितनी कोई हाई लेवल इंक्रिप्शन कर लेंगे एज ए प्रोग्रामर. हमने कोई थोड़ा छोटा मोटा एल्गोरिथम लिख के अपना डेटा को इनक्रिप्ट किया होगा ना, तो उसकी बैक ट्रैकिंग करके उसको डिक्रिप्ट करना किसी के लिए भी आसान हो सकता है. हाँ, अगर वो उसको मिल जाए, कोई एक सैंपल को अगर वो डेटा को किसी तरह से कर लेता है तो उसे आइडिया हो जाएगा कि बाकी भी डेटा कैसे इनक्रिप्ट हुआ. सो जो एक्सेस का डेटा है, एक्सेस जब डेटा को स्टोर करता है तो उसके डेटा की वो उनकी अपनी फाइल सिस्टम्स होंगे, अपने उनके बाइनरी सिस्टम्स होगा जिसमें वो डेटा स्टोर कर रहा होगा. सो उसकी कन्वर्जन बैक टू ओरिजिनल डेटा, यानी कि उसको डेटा को रीडेबल बनाने के लिए वन हैज टू डू अ लॉट, बल्कि वो नियरली इम्पॉसिबल है उस डेटा को रीड करना. जबकि जो टेक्स्ट फाइल के अंदर डेटा है, अगर मैंने खुद से उसको इनक्रिप्ट किया होगा तो मैं कितनी को इनक्रिप्शन हाई लेवल कर रहा हूँ, छोटा मोटा एल्गोरिथम भी लिख रहा हूँ. Although you need not to write this, that this much is enough, that when we write data in a file handling system, the data is stored is in text file format. So data is in ASCII standard data, so it can be easily be read by somebody if the person has an access to the file. So अगर मेरे फाइल को किसी ने एक्सेस कर लिया, कॉपी कर लिया, रीड कर लिया, रिमोटली एक्सेस कर लिया, तो उसको डेटा को रीड करना कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है फाइल हैंडलिंग में, बिकॉज फाइल इज द टेक्स्ट फाइल, ASCII फाइल है. सो इतना लिखना काफी है. एंड द लास्ट पॉइंट आई वांट टू डिस्कस अगेन, ऊपर भी डिस्कस किया लेकिन इसको मैं दोबारा लिखना चाह रहा हूँ, और वो ये है, इन डेटा in flat files, we have to implement data integrity rules, data integrity या डेटा वैलिडेशन बोल देता हूँ, इंटेग्रिटी के ऊपर डिस्कस किया ही है. तो डेटा वैलिडेशन रूल्स हमें यहाँ पर इम्प्लीमेंट खुद से करने पड़ेंगे. बट in databases, data integrity rules are built in available. Databases में these are already built in available. We need not to do many things to actually implement these rules. We have to just give some condition to actually implement these data validation rules. So these were the actually flaws जो जिसकी वजह से हम फ्लैट फाइल को नहीं यूज करते, हम ये यूज करते हैं डेटाबेसेस. So let me go through on all the points that I discussed about why we use databases instead of file.